Hello, and welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. This video is going to be about paper. And following in my quest to find bargains and something a little bit different, I'm always willing to take a chance and try something out and provide you with my opinion and my findings on my purchase. So these struck my fancy on Amazon. I do buy a fair number of notebooks on Amazon. I find them to be good, and especially with Amazon Prime. I love Monoron paper, and this is one of my recent ones that I got. I wanted something a little bit bigger. I just love this paper. The format's a little bit strange, but I live with it because the surface is perfect. So before we talk about these SuperiorMaker notebooks, I think it'd be good to set the stage on what type of paper I enjoy writing on with a fountain pen. I mean, obviously the first paper that I went wow about was a Rhodia pad that I got. Stephen Brown used them, a lot of other reviewers used them. And it was just amazing to feel how the pen glided across the paper. So that was nice. And then, of course, Tomoe River came along, and that was like, whoa, even smoother. And because that paper was not very absorbent, it had a nice surface coating on it, which gave it its smoothness, but also didn't allow ink to sink into it, so you got a lot of nice shading and sheen, and a lot of ink characteristics showed up on Tomoe River paper that weren't apparent on other paper. But one of the challenges writing with a vintage pen with Noodler's ink in it is I've had letters take 2 days to dry. I've since then avoided using those inks and those pens on that paper. But what I like about the Monoron paper and also Fabriano paper, which I use for my pen reviews, is you get feedback from it, which you don't get from Rhodia, Clairefontaine, or Tomoe River. And I enjoy a little bit of feedback. You know, some people have talked about it like a pencil on a piece of paper. I mean, I think we all kind of grew up using pencils. So that's a sensation and feeling that's familiar to us. I mean, I prefer that to a buttery, smooth nib that doesn't give any feedback. I think I've made the metaphorical example of what kind of car do you like to drive, and I like a car that tells me what kind of road I'm driving on, and I get a lot of feedback. I know when I'm reaching a limit on the tires and things of that nature. I also drove motorcycles, and that was even more of a sensual experience of being in total contact with the road and feedback and having total control over the machine, which brings us back to fountain pens, and that's, you know, to me, ink, nib, and paper are really what make the writing experience. So that's kind of like my little intro, not as little as I expected. So I got these on Amazon, and let's take a look at the small one first. So I always like pocket notebooks, and this is just about the right size. We'll give you those dimensions. It's an A6 size. They come with these labels that you can put on, and that surface is something you can write on. So you can put a front cover on it and mark your pages, you know, kind of give you your chapters. So one thing that's nice is these are stitched, not stapled. So that's going to make a more dependable assembly method. Plain brown cover, but that's fine. 7mm lines, which is what they are in the other notebook of the SuperiorMaker. These are your cream colored pages. I'm not necessarily a fan of cream colored, but it's okay in this small notebook. Rounded edges, yeah, I think this will hold up fairly well. They do make a waterproof one in case you want to do that. So I wrote on this with some pens and inks and nibs. As you can see, some ink took a while to dry, and the Waterman 55 laid down a fairly wet patch of ink. So overall, no feather. I like the feedback, you know, with these various nibs. And the other great part is when you look at the back side, absolutely no bleed through and no show through. So that is pretty impressive. So overall, you know, part of the aspect of paper is, do you like it? Does it meet your needs? So, you know, if you want a nice knockaround notebook, you know, throw in your pocket, throw in your small case, then this might suit that. And I do use these for notes. I have certain subjects that I put in them and keep them going. So now we're going to switch over to the larger notebook, which is more substantial. This is a fairly thick plastic cover that you have here. I mean, it doesn't bend, so that gives you a lot of protection. You know, the elastic keeps it secure, so it's not going to open up. Throw it in your bag or your backpack or whatever. I like this paper better because it's white. I just prefer a white paper. To me, it accentuates ink color better. You know, you're not adding any color from the paper to the color on the ink. So I did my same set of tests with the same set of pens. And again, no feedback. There was a little flaw here in the piece of paper, maybe a little piece of wood pulp that didn't get ground down, but that's not unusual. Occasionally you'll get that, and this is not a high-end notebook. Color came out well. I like the way the nibs feel on the paper. The surface is just exactly what I like. It's not super smooth. And this is 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, so that's the English dimensions. So considering this is the same 100-gram paper that's in the smaller notebook, if we flip it over, we do notice some bleed through. Becomes more apparent with the wet vintage Waterman nib. And there is a little bit of show through, so interesting that the cream paper performs better from writing on both sides than the ivory paper, but this certainly, for most pens and for most users, you're going to be able to use both sides of this paper. Just so you can get an idea, as the 52 and the 55 are the ones that provided the most amount of bleed through, and that was when I was really flexing it and putting down an awful lot of ink. As you can see, these two at the bottom, which are 1.1s and not dry nibs, but if you flip it over, there is a little bleed through here where I did that heavy cross stitching, so that's it. So I think the real question comes up is, do I recommend these notebooks? Well, to me, they serve a purpose, and that's what's nice about them. They're certainly affordable from a price perspective. I mean, there's a lot of pages in here. So, and it's really, this double spiral wound is very, very nice. You know, part of the thing that people talk about is, you know, it lies perfectly flat without any issue. So if you need a good sized notebook with some thick paper in it, then this might suit your needs. The paper is not perforated, so if you're going to tear out sheets, you have to tear them out, and if you need to cut off that end if that's what you want to do. A lot of notebooks do have a perforated sheet, but I think if you're going to be doing like a journal type of thing where you want to keep it intact, I think, you know, from a longevity viewpoint, you don't have any weak points there where the paper is scored to be able to take it off. So those are two notebooks that hopefully you've enjoyed taking a look at, and I provided you with some information that might influence whether these are things that you might want to add into your life and use them. So we reached the end of this video. Thank you for watching. May you have many great, exceptional pen, nib, ink, and paper experiences. Until next time, bye for now.